But yes, and now you and Chad had gone down to Florida. How did that come about to get that? You found it down there somewhere. Tallahassee?
No, it was Spring Hill, Florida.
Oh goodness.
So way down Central Florida.
Okay.
It's a 7-hour drive. I found this car on what was it? Auto Trader back in the day. Found it on Auto Trader. Went down there. Me and Chad got together. We were gonna go down and get this thing. Well, actually, no, it was me and another buddy of mine, actually, Dustin. So I'm like, hey man, you know, I'll ride down there with you and I'll drive this car back. So we got down there after a 7-hour trip at like 5 o'clock in the morning. So we left at like 10 o'clock that night to get there the next morning early before the guy got up. So it's cold. I mean, we're in Central Florida and it is 19 degrees.
Oh hell.
In Central Florida. One of the coldest days was in January. So we get down there, I see the car sitting in the driveway, you know, and I'm like, oh man, that's it. That's
my
car.
car.
The car. Like, oh, I paid $4,000 for this thing, and it was a good car. You know what I mean? Like back then you could get them. This was 2001,
Yeah.
I think it was. So you could get these cars pretty nice for $4,000, $4,500. So we get down there, I see the car, and we wait and wait and wait. Finally, the guy wakes up and comes out there and taps on the window. Go over there, look at the car. Car looks great. Had a couple door dings in it. I don't like door dings at all, but I'm like, all right, screw it, you know. I drove it, by the way, and the car did great. So we get about an hour away from this dude's house and the car dies. I mean, just whoop, that's it, nothing. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So I pull off to the side of the road, you know. Long story short, because I could go on and on about this. I mean, we tried for hours. I bought new parts, new coils, all this stuff from the auto parts store, and couldn't get this thing to run. So I had to leave it down in some little town 6 hours away from the house. So me and Dustin go all the way back to Dothan, and then I get up with Chad, and I'm like, Chad, man, I got to go get this car. Can you go with me? We got back early enough to where we could still get a U-Haul trailer. So Chad's like, yeah, we'll take the Bravada.
I remember the Bravada.
Yeah, so we get his Bravada and we drive back. I think we got to about Tallahassee. His Bravada tears up on pulling the trailer to go get my car. So we're like, you know, 2 hours in, 2.5 hours in, whatever it was at the time, and then his breaks. So then we call Randy Womble.
Yeah.
So we call Randy, and this is like 11 o'clock at night by this point. It's done got late. So Chad calls Randy. Randy comes, gets the trailer from the Bravada, and then we all jump in his F-250 and drive all the way down. Well, we were way off on how far away we were from this car. We were thinking we were like an hour and a half, 2 hours away. Oh no. We were, I think like 3 hours away from the car or something. And
Yeah.
Randy's like, where are we going, y'all?
Oh,
like,
my
it's
goodness.
late at night. It's a Saturday night. Like, what are we doing here? So anyway, long story short, we get down there, we get the car, and then we drive straight back to Dothan. Like, this was unreal. So we get the car back, and then Chad's got to go and get his Bravada from down there. So this all happened like this. It was the worst experience of my life. It was horrible. Freezing cold. The car didn't have a heater, by the way.
Oh,
and
no.
the door seal, you could see the road through the door seal. It was a nice car, but that seal was gone right there.
Gotcha.
Get back home with the car, long story short, and come to find out the MSD box had went bad on it, and that's all it was. So I finally figured out what it was, bought a new MSD box, put it on the car, and it ran great. Almost cost me a damn divorce,
Oh my goodness.
by the way. That was not, I was throwing money at it left and right, trying to figure out what was wrong with it.
We talked about you was in your early 20s when you came to work. How did you go from being 20, 21-year-old fella that had an orange motorcycle with the leopard skin with a leopard skin seat cover? So all the brutal fans out there, he had a leopard fur seat cover on a motorcycle.
Actually, Jimmy, the whole thing was.
Oh, my
the
goodness.
entire, like,
Was it
gas
tank and everything?
gas tank,
That's
the
the way I
fairings, everything was furred out. So seems like at the time it was Star Boys or some group of guys that used to do stunts and things like that with their crotch rockets. And I decided I wanted to do it. There was a guy around town that had a cow print on his, and then one had a tiger print. And I was like, I got to do this, man. I can do it. I can do this. I go to Hancock Fabrics, and I buy myself a roll of, it was cheetah, I think is what it was, whatever, leopard, cheetah, it was something. So I buy this roll of this stuff, and I come home, and I get some of that spray glue, and we start taking the fairings off this thing, and I'm just spraying, wrapping, trimming, and just putting it on. I mean, it was simple as it could be, you know?
Right.
So I get all this stuff on here, and I live down a dirt road, so I realized I had made a mistake pretty early on.
How do you wash imitation cheetah skin on a motorcycle?
So this is the worst part of it all. So I would shampoo this thing. I would literally get shampoo and conditioner.
Did you use like pet shampoo or?
No, I just used
Okay, I didn't.
just use regular shampoo on it.
Like cat shampoo or something.
Yeah. So I would wash this thing with shampoo, and then I'd have to come in with conditioner because it would knot. It would just like human hair, essentially. So I'd have to rub this thing down with conditioner and rinse it all off and literally dry it off with a towel and then blow dry it. If you wanted to ride it anytime soon, you had to blow dry it. Well, I remember riding it to work one day, and this shows how naive and young I was.
I remember I know what you're fixing to say now.
Yeah. So I drove this thing to work, and big rainstorm starts to come up.
Yeah.
And I'm freaking out because my bike's sitting out there. I'm like, I can't ride this thing home. The seats are furred out, like everything. So I go in, and I'm like, I got to go. I got to go home.
And our boss was really cool.
Yeah.
He was a cool guy.
He was really cool. I don't think he was too cool with that, but
like most of us, he didn't understand.
Didn't understand.
He didn't understand Young Brutal.
Yeah, he didn't get it. So I went ahead. He let me. He's like, okay. Kind of caught him off guard. I guess he had never heard that excuse, you know, as to why somebody needs to leave. So I go jump on my bike anyway and ride this thing home before the storm. But I remember I wanted to paint it after that. I'm like, all right, I've had enough of this, you know. I'm ready to paint it. Oh, yeah. You want to talk about, listen, this is what I had to do. I couldn't get the damn fur off. Like, it stuck so good, it was ripping.
Did you do sanded?
No. I went to the dollar store, and I got one of those cheap little $15 kiddie pools and filled it up with about 15 gallons of gas.
Oh, hell.
And laid the fairings over into the gas so that it would dissolve the glue so that I could pull it off and then start sanding.
Oh, my God.
It was a feat, I'm telling you now. And thank God the EPA wasn't nowhere around because it was bad. And I don't advise anybody do that, by the way. Don't do that. I remember probably around 7 or 8 years old, I wanted to be a race car driver or either like work on cars like a mechanic. You know, I thought I wanted to be a mechanic or a painter, you know, paint cars or something. And I just knew it had something to do with cars in my life. Well, obviously, you know, time went on, and I started to realize as I got a little older that probably wasn't going to happen. But I still wanted to work on cars or be around them in some capacity, but I just didn't know how it was going to pay the bills. Because I realized I didn't want to work on cars necessarily and be a mechanic. And I didn't, at the time, obviously know how to paint cars and thought I would never know. So I'm starting to come to the realization of this might not work out. And it was honestly up until the channel, when I started this channel, that I was able to implement that. Because up to that point, it was just a hobby of mine, something I wanted to do. But I knew I always wanted to reach out and help people, right? Not just turn wrenches, help them get their cars going. Because I'm of the mindset of you don't have to have all the money, you don't have to have all the tools in the world to work on these cars. You know, when we take like this car that's over here to an event, you know, people are like, man, that's a good looking car. And there's a car over here next to it that may have $20,000 more into it. And it may look better than mine, which it probably does. But is it $20,000 worth of a difference?
Right.
And that was always my mindset. Let's get it on the road. Let's get it on there as quick as we can. And I wanted to share that with people. And I hope that's what we've done on the channel. And I hope that's what people have gotten out of this. Is just enjoy what you got and share it with your family and your friends. If you're passionate about something and your heart's in it, your wallet will follow. Meaning, if you love something enough and you're passionate about it enough, you'll find a way. You'll find a way to get it done. Now, I guess people could argue that, but it's pretty much, look, we all want a house, right?
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
You're passionate about getting your house. You think, how in the hell am I going to afford it? But you figure it out. You need a car. So If you're passionate enough about getting one, you will get one. It's the same thing with these. You just have to kind of prioritize a little bit differently and not put your family out, obviously.
No. Well, and a lot of people, a car is their mode of transportation. But in the Fox body business, I mean, you're talking about a hot rod. I mean,
Yeah.
you can drive it to work occasionally too, but it's not an everyday driver.
It's not.
Or it's not for most people, I wouldn't assume.
Not most. We've got some subscribers that drive their car every single day, and you could, you really could. But nowadays, with the creature comforts that these new vehicles have, I mean, they're cool to drive, but we're also trying to preserve them.
Talk about a couple of other projects you had. Not projects, but hobbies.
Yeah, I actually had a Honda Accord, 4-door.
Now, this is a long time ago.
Yeah, this was, man, I don't know, 2001?
Maybe, yeah.
Something like that. So yeah, so Fast and the Furious had just come out. Now, I want everybody to know I did not buy into the whole Fast and the Furious type thing. That wasn't what I was doing.
Know, maybe.
But I did enjoy some of the imports. Like, what?
Now you did lower it or something.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
You did lower
slammed.
it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I slammed it and painted it myself. That was one of the first paint jobs I ever done.
That's right. I remember because you showed it to me, and I remember thinking, dang, this looks pretty good.
Yeah, one of the first paint jobs I think I ever done by myself. Yeah, that was it. It was a black cherry. All it was black with red and blue mica in it.
And didn't you do that over at your daddy's place?
Yep, did it over there. And the car actually turned out like crap. It got cold that night, so the dew kind of came in, and that thing like a rainbow the next morning. It was dull and looked like crap. So we ended up sanding it down, respraying it again the next day. Turned out great for what it was anyway. But yeah, like I wasn't into the little imports, but I was like, man, that's kind of cool. Like the way they look. I didn't want the exhaust. That was the one thing. I did not want the fart can exhaust.
Right.
And I didn't want to try to make it fast. Man, that was a really good car.
Yeah.
I think I paid like $2,500 for that car or something like that, and I think I sold it for $65 whenever I got rid of it.
How about that?
Yeah, so I was happy about that. Got my use out of it.
Well, and the thing about you and guys like you that tinker and can fix things and figure it out is that as soon as you show that you can do it, everybody else says, well, hey, can you help me? Because I know I've done that a dozen times.
Yeah, because we were doing the little like fire stick boxes.
Yeah.
We'll say I won't go into detail on that.
Had the little boxes thing, and you showed me how that worked. And of course, I'm a skeptic on most stuff. And you said, "No, I guarantee you. Let me show you." And I said, "Wow."
Yeah.
I had to have one and get one for everybody else in the family.
But the thing was, it wasn't that I was, trying to make a killing off of it. I wanted to make a little bit of money from my efforts and just be a part of something, I guess.
Man.
If I'm being honest with you, I guess really what it all boils down to, like if you're trying to figure out what makes me tick, I wanted to be a part of something. I wanted to provide something, a service of some sort that people wanted or needed.
I remember taking that thing home to my wife, and I had told her about it. She said, well, does it work? I said, that was my first question, but it works. Because we made it on the little tablet, it works. She says it's going to work on the TV, and I said, well, let's see. He says it will.
Yeah.
So we plugged it in, and boom, and it was just like, man, that's incredible.
That was
like
cool.
a kid in a candy store.
That was so cool. I remember whenever I got my first one, oh man, I was like this. I just sat and binge watched anything and everything.
Anything. Stuff you never even thought about watching. So back in, whenever, we changed jobs one time, and you and I both changed jobs at the same time.
Yep.
And went to a deal that involved some shooting, target practice, and this type of thing. And neither of us had done anything really like that,
Not really.
So you go out, though, and the first day that we do this one course, you set the record. Because our instructor, I remember him saying there's never been a 36 here before on this course.
That's right. Yeah, it was timed, and then 36 out of 36.
That's right.
Yeah, that was the first time that had been done. Now the rules have changed. For that time,
That was a big deal.
yeah. So I'm not a. I have to be careful how I say this because it's not. I'm definitely not anti-gun by any means. I'm just not a big gun guy like a lot of people are. You know,
Right.
I don't buy up all the guns and stuff like that, and I don't shoot all the time. Growing up, we shot all the time. it was pistols and 22 rifles and shotguns and whatever. We just shot, because we lived on a bunch of land, so we could just shoot whenever we wanted to. So it was second nature to me just to shoot guns. It's funny because people ask me all the time, well, what kind of gun is that, or what is this or that? I'm like, I don't know.
Matter. You point and shoot.
I just shoot them. Like, which one do you prefer? They're all the same to me. It really doesn't matter to me. You should be able to shoot any of them, right? Now, you may have a favorite that feels better in your hand or whatever, but as long as the sights work on it and it's halfway accurate, it's going to pretty much go where I want it to go. And I try not to have a favorite. I try to be good at whichever one I'm holding at the time. And it's the same thing with these cars. It kind of relates to the Fox bodies or whatever else.
Which one's your favorite? Is the one you're driving?
Well, kind of,
the one you're working on?
The one that I'm working on is typically my favorite at the time, but also in the fact of how you get the most out of your car. I think, so many people want their car to do what they want their car to do. Like, I'm this person. I need this car to work for what I do.
Yeah.
And the reality of it is, you have to understand what your car wants and then be that driver for that car. Operate that car to its full potential, right? So I felt like if you think about that and apply that to life in general, it's a pretty good process there.
I remember you racing different people.
My dad always had bikes. He used to drag race them. Well, street race them, I'll say. So around 2011, I bought a ZX-10R, a 06 or 05, a ZX-10R. It's already stretched out, had a little pipe on it, slip-on pipe, and I wanted to go racing. First couple times at the track, this thing just didn't perform. It just did not. Well, this goes back into me explaining about how to I hate to use the word master, because that was something I was always told, you never master anything, like that. But essentially, for lack of a better term, this is me mastering this bike. This thing went from running like high sixes in the eighth of mile, which was not fast for a bike, all the way down to, by the time I was done with this thing and had worked my magic on it, tweaked a few things, was running 570s in the eighth. It had a power commander and a slip-on muffler. I mean, that was it.
Wow.
It was super fast. Foot shifted, didn't have one of those buttons, air shifter. I didn't have that. And I really, that's probably my second biggest passion is motorcycles.
Have you ever wrecked a bike?
I've never wrecked a bike. I did my dirt bike many times, but never a street bike. Seen a lot of people killed throughout the years. People I know, good friends. I just was like, man, you can be the best rider in the world, somebody not see you and just clobber you.
All right, so now you've had some changes through the years, and I've seen most of them, or parts of them anyway. Mm-hmm. What about your last divorce?
Ooh. So
how much fun was that?
That wasn't very fun. So obviously, I guess everybody's kind of doing the math here. I've been married 3 times, and I finally got it right. Nothing against anybody, but some people just aren't made for each other, and that's obvious.
Oh yeah.
But my last divorce pretty much broke me, man. That was bad, and a lot about it. We've talked many times about it, but it was rough. I went from 2 incomes, decent incomes, I'll say, to like $170 every 2 weeks. Bring home. Had to go live with my buddy Joe Nate. So everybody knows Joe Nate. You've seen him on the channel. So I was living in his spare bedroom on a air mattress. No money. I had the old Suburban. That was all I had. Well, actually, no. I think I had the Suburban and the Fox body, actually. My black and gray Fox body. Hell, I couldn't afford to put gas in it to go anywhere. I was as broke could be. Didn't know what I was going to do from there. No credit. Nothing. Well,
but you had made good friends with that old 3-letter, the old IRS.
Did I? Y'all
had become intimate.
So that was part of the reason why I was so broke, is I had a run-in with the IRS. It wasn't any of my doing. It was, you've heard the whole story. You get it. Basically, we got screwed over is all I'll say. We got screwed over by someone doing our taxes, and we ended up owing like right at about $100,000 total in IRS debt. It was like 70-something thousand the first go around, but they ended up coming back later. So, so all that had come out of my check because at the time it didn't matter. We were married, so all that came out of my check. And then after we parted ways, it's still coming out of my check.
Still coming out of your check.
And child support and everything else. And I was like, it was bad. But, you know, I didn't give up, though. That was the thing. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I knew I was going to find a way to get out of this rut. But honestly, man, I really didn't know. I didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel. Well, that's when I met my wife now, Amy. And life has never been as good. We knew what we wanted, and we were both driven. Right? And it's funny how you can make money happen. It's like you shift it around, I guess, a little. It's funny. And money comes and money goes.
Oh.
The day that we got married, she found out that she was pregnant.
Now, how'd that happen?
Well, I don't know. I think it was lack of cable TV in the bedroom.
Oh.
So she got pregnant with Memphis, and we thought that was, you know, we were happy, but we were like, oh my God, we're never gonna make this. And that was probably some of the tightest times that we had right there, because it was getting serious. And Jimmy, I don't know. It got better. And now, you know, we were putting in the work, we were doing what we had to do, but we both had the same jobs and we were doing the same thing, but somehow or another things changed and got a little better for us. Then not too long after that, we bought this house, which was way outside of our price range at the time, our comfort zone, but it's like I told my wife, and we both agreed, we got to go ahead and put ourselves out there and get what we want and then make that work. You see what I'm saying? We knew that we could make it work at some point in our lives.
You'd figure it out. Let's get it and we'll figure it out.
Exactly. You know, it was really tough times, but we both understood what we wanted out of life, and we did our best to just apply that and just hit the ground running, you know, and just never say never. And that was something that I'm really proud of, is we took risk. We had to.
Yeah.
It was either that or you were not going to have anything. And as you might know, I'm a risk taker.
I know you are.
I do enjoy a good risk here or there, but I do not gamble. So if anybody's wondering, I don't gamble. I don't even play the lottery. So, but where it all changed was when I started the channel. I remember I had the Cobra, and I had been posting a couple videos. I think I had like 3 videos. You know, maybe a couple hundred views or something like that.
Now, what was the old, and I don't know if you want to talk about it, but the name of the old group?
PFO?
PFO.
Yeah. So I started a Mustang club in 2001 called PFO Mustangs.
Right.
And it was just something, it was a name that I come up with that stood for Pro 50, which was a class of Mustangs that used to race. I always thought it was just the coolest name, Pro 50. Also, there still is to this day a shifter for these cars, a 5-speed shifter called a Pro 50 Power Tower.
Okay.
So I was like, we'll just call it Pro 50 Mustangs, and then it just became PFO. So I started PFO back in 2001. It was a car club, essentially. We had about 15 members locally or something like that, maybe 20 at the time. And then we kept that for years. In 2007, a good friend of mine, Hunter, created a website, a forum. So we went live officially with PFO Mustangs in 2007, and we had over 600 members.
Wow.
And we had our own forum. It was cool, man. It was so awesome. So I did PFO for a while. We would have cruises and events. I met a bunch of guys down in Florida, all over the place. We had chapters. So you would be a chapter president for Florida. So my buddy Cullen was the chapter president for the Florida group. And then, we had somebody in New Mexico, California, Georgia, Alabama.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
We had about 6 or 7 states that people were in and were the president of that. So it was really cool, man. We had a good time with it. And it's still up and running right now. I don't really run it anymore. I've got a couple of my buddies that run it. But occasionally we'll have a PFO reunion, like meet. And that's something that we actually got to do here pretty soon.
Yeah.
But I was videoing back then. So I actually started my YouTube channel in 2006 with PFO Mustangs.
Okay.
So I was posting PFO Mustang videos over there. And I've shared a couple of them on the channel before, but I think we're going to get into that a little bit more. But yeah, man, I you know, just to kind of lead on into something else, I guess, I've always had a passion for that, for video editing. And, you know, I've always wanted to evoke emotion in people. I want you to feel the way that I feel.
You were the first person I ever knew that had Photoshop.
Yeah.
And
right.
and above that, the first person I ever knew that knew how to work it. Because it was complicated.
Yeah, yeah, very. I'll say to this day, Photoshop is probably one of the most complicating things you can do. The video editing and all that stuff for this channel is not that hard at all. Photoshop, on the other hand, is next level stuff.
Okay.
Now you can scratch the surface and do whatever you need to do in Photoshop, as long as you don't try to dive too deep.
Right.
If you try to go too deep into this, it'll blow your mind. I mean, Photoshop is ridiculous. But you know, it's funny. I started Photoshop in 2002. I remember my first time ever trying it.
Right.
It was 2002. A buddy of mine had come over and he showed me, Calvin, his name was Calvin, come over and showed me a Mustang that he was going to paint. And you got to understand, at the time my brain couldn't comprehend. He would show like the body of the car with no wheels, like just and like have it in layers, you know, which we all understand.
I remember
now.
you brought it in one night, and I brought a floppy disk. I had a camera, one of the old Sony
Yeah, I remember that.
first digital cameras, and you would put different wheels on my truck.
Yep.
And
I
I
sure
thought,
did.
man, this is the most incredible shit I've ever seen in my life.
I mean, that was a car guy's dream come true to be able to see.
You can add and take
different
stuff
wheels.
away and see what it looks like. This is crazy.
Man, I loved Photoshop, and I still do to this day. So that's what I actually use to edit, you know, my thumbnails with, things like that. But man, I noticed something about myself though. When I first started with Photoshop, I learned it pretty quick. I'd say within, man, maybe 3 months, I knew everything I needed to know about Photoshop to make it work. Now,
Right.
obviously, it goes a lot deeper than that, but I knew enough that I needed to know. It's funny because I don't evolve much. When I learn something that works, I shut it down.
Right.
Like instead of, you know, from here to here, I should be here at this point. I'm still right here because what's
works.
right here works for me.
Yeah.
And I still don't know any more about Photoshop than I did 6 months into it when I first learned it, but I just learned what works for me.